Welcome to the Northeast Kingdom Voice. I'm your host, Scott Wheeler. Today, we have a guest on our show who is here to talk about a bit of Orleans County. Well, a legend if you went to North Country High School. Dan Clifford is here to talk about his father, Jerry Clifford. Many of us, including myself, had him for a driver's ed teacher. And he was also known as an outstanding basketball coach. And he's going to be honored in the coming days with the basketball court at North High School being named after him. And Dan and his family are helping the word out. Welcome to the show, Dan.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So you're going to be having, your father's going to be honored at North Country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's exciting for sure. I know he's looking forward to it. My sister and my brother and I and Glenn Gardner have been trying to get the word out as much as possible. And a lot of people have contacted Dad or myself or my sister or Glenn that they're coming, and there's people coming from Texas and Michigan and Georgia and all the New England states, and a lot of alumni are coming back that played for Dad or at least know Dad, and so we're really excited about it. I think it's going to be a great event.
How did this come about?
Well, there were some alumni that played for Dad that kind of put this together, and it was spearheaded by Glenn Gardner. And, it just puts some people together. There's some paperwork, and then it had to go through some committees, and then it was voted on by the school board. And, it was quite a process, for sure. But yeah, it got through the process, and the event is December 29th, in between the JV game and varsity game of a boys game on a Friday night. And so, yeah, it's coming to fruition, and looking forward to the event.
Okay. So he also, guys, he taught me how to other than the deer that walked out in front of me once, which I know he wasn't responsible for, but I've had a perfect driving record. I've had a perfect driving record since then. But he was also a typing teacher, I believe. Is that true?
Yeah, he taught business at North Country before he went into driver's ed full time. And yeah, he was in the business department for a while. Yeah.
Right. Now, did you learn to drive from your father?
I did. I had Mr. Rhodes in class, but I drove with Dad. So I did my 10 hours, I think it was at the time, with Dad in the driver's ed car. But the class part I had with Mr. Rhodes.
Did your father give you any breaks, or do you think he was harder on you?
With the driving, no, I think it was probably the same as everybody else. I think it was a little more convenient for me to drive because I would drive him home from school or drive him to school, and those hours would count. So, no, I think probably about the same as everybody else.
Yeah, and he had a brake on his. Didn't they have a brake on their side of the car when?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I recall.
Yeah.
So, the one thing to this day, I use his name on a regular basis, especially with my late wife, is she was always tempted, if somebody was high beaming her, to high beam them back. And I remember, and it stuck out in my mind about your father saying how foolish that was. Not only so you're being blinded by another driver, so then you're going to blind that driver. So you now have two blind drivers headed in the opposite directions. And I always I probably don't remember hardly anything else, but I remember that. And so I might flick my lights, but I don't blast them because of what your father taught us.
Yeah. And, when he retired and came back to Maine, he started driving schools in Maine. They don't have driving schools in high schools. They're all private. And he started his own private driving school. And he did that for probably 10 to 12 years. He just had a passion for it and liked it. And it was a way for him to stay in education, which he loved to teach. And during the summer, my wife and I are both in education, and we would work for him during the summer. We would drive with the kids, and he would do all the classroom part.
Right. Hey, do you think, I don't know how is he these days? He's what, did I read 82?
Yeah, he's 82. He's doing good. He's doing good. He plays golf a lot during the summer. He tries to go to as many basketball games as he can. Whoever is playing. We have a daughter right now that's in 8th grade, and he and my mother go to pretty much all of her games. And he still knows some high school kids in Maine, and he goes to their games. So no, it takes him a little while to get around. He doesn't walk as fast as he used to, but no, he's healthy, and both mom and dad are both healthy and doing well.
Track. Do you think after award, you can convince him to come on the show?
Oh yeah, I bet I could for sure. Yeah, he would like that.
Because there's a lot of people who remember Maine. So that accent he had. That was an old Maine accent.
Yes. Yeah, he never got rid of his accent. Even living in Vermont for 30-something years, he never lost his Maine accent.
Well, feeling I'm going to die with a Vermont accent. Feel it. I feel.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you graduated from North Country?
Yeah, I graduated from North Country in 1989.
1989. So I graduated in 84 years.
Okay.
Yep. I didn't do basketball. I may have watched a few games in my life, but what basketball did he play in high school?
Yeah, he played in high school. He was a really good shooter and a good player in high school. He went to a small school in Maine. And then he loved studying basketball and watching basketball and trying to learn the game. And, he got to coach at a young age and was successful here in Maine. But I always wanted to coach at a bigger school, and heard about the job at North Country. And they needed a teacher and a basketball coach, and he went out and interviewed. And it was kind of on a whim. And my mom, she grew up in Maine also. My mom said, we'll do it for 1 year and see how it goes. And they both went out there and loved it. My brother, I think, was in 8th grade, 7th or 8th grade. And my sister was in 4th or 5th grade. And I wasn't born yet. I was born in Vermont. But they went and tried it and absolutely loved it.
Okay. You were mentioning about ages and that, and it's funny when you're a kid, like I'm near and I'm closer to 60 than not, and he's 82. Well, in my mind as a teenager, he was pretty much near an elderly gentleman. But in reality, if I do my math right, he was like early 40s, which is, even in my world, is now young.
Yeah.
So, but
yeah.
Did he ever win? Did he ever lead any teams to the championships or to wins?
So my senior year was his last year of coaching, and we made it to the Final Four, and that's a big deal in Vermont. It still is, just being one of the 4 teams left, and played at Patrick Gymnasium at University of Vermont. And he was the first coach to ever bring a team there, a North Country team. And so that was a huge accomplishment. The last 2 or 3 years that he coached, I think there were 16 wins and 17 wins and 18 wins. And that was in Division One. So it was quite an accomplishment. It was the first few years that he went to North Country, they weren't very good at all, and they really struggled. And then he started junior pro, which maybe you remember. And now I think it's called Border Hoop.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, he started basketball camp. He did all of those things and really built the program from the ground up. So when I was little, I played junior pro, and so did all my friends, and we all went to basketball camp. And so a lot of kids took advantage of those opportunities that he gave them and really built the program up. And, those things are still in place even years after he's been gone from Vermont. That's just a testament how he built it, and the people that he got involved, loved it, and they're carrying it on today.
Did your sister play basketball?
She did until her senior year. She graduated in '83. She played basketball her freshman, sophomore, and junior year. Her senior year, she decided to cheer instead of play basketball.
Now, one of your brothers, taking his love of basketball to the next level. Mm-hmm. So tell us about that.
Yeah, Steve graduated from UMaine Farmington in '83. Graduated from North Country in '79, and then he coached at a small school in Maine called Woodland High School, and he taught special ed there, and he really enjoyed it. But he really enjoyed the coaching more, and then he got into college coaching, a lot of different universities that he went to, and then sometimes you just get to meet some of the people that could make a difference in your life. And he ended up meeting Jeff Van Gundy, who at the time was an assistant at Providence College, but later became the head coach of the New York Knicks. And when Jeff got a job, then he asked Steve to be a scout for him, which he did. And then the next year he ended up being on the bench, and then they went to Houston Rockets together. Then he went with Stan Van Gundy, who coached at Castleton when my sister was at Castleton. And he went with him to the Orlando Magic. And then he was an assistant with the LA Lakers when Kobe Bryant played for them. And then he became a head coach after that with the Charlotte Hornets, and Michael Jordan hired him. And then a few years later, he went back to Orlando as a head coach. I was there for 3 years, and today he's back with the Charlotte Hornets and in his second year.
Right. So he's led he certainly has led a interesting career. But on the other hand, you have also, and I think you said your sister has kind of followed in your father's footsteps in the sense of being teachers or in education.
Yeah, my sister, and I think it's because of my dad too. He always had ailments when I was growing up, and just something going on. And my sister got into nursing. She was a nursing major at Castleton, and she lives in Texas now. And she has 3 kids, and they live in Corpus Christi. And I think if you ask her why she got into nursing, it was probably part of, Dad always had something going on.
Oh, okay. I thought you said she was a teacher.
Good or something. So I think that's part of the reason, why she went into nursing. And I did go into education, and it was because of my father, and both my mom and my father. And but yeah, that's from him. And the basketball coaching for Steve is from my dad too.
Right. So you're a principal.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That is one job. It'd be hard enough being a teacher, but boy, I'd have shoe prints all over my back. I have no backbone when it comes to. How is it?
I'm really fortunate to have a great staff. And so there are a lot more good days than bad days. And we have a great group of kids. I have about 550 kids in our school. It's called Ellsworth High School. And, so it's a small community. We're Class B, which is like Division II in Vermont. And no, we have a great group of kids here right now. And I love my staff, so they make my job a lot easier. You do have those days, but 90% of the days for me are good.
Do you coach?
I don't. I did used to coach here. I was a varsity basketball coach, and I taught here for 10 years. And then as my kids, were growing up, I coached their travel teams. This is the first year I haven't coached. So we have two kids in college and one that is an 8th grader, and she plays school ball, but not travel basketball. But it's fun to watch the kids play. And, in our community, I know pretty much all of our kids. And so I have many teams that I follow.
So this is Ellsworth, Maine?
Yes. Yep.
But I thought, has any of you kids inherited the driver education bug?
Yeah, I think so. Like I said before, Dad started driving schools here in Maine, or driving one school, and my wife and I during the school year we would teach, and then during the summer that was our job. We would drive for Dad, and Dad would do all the classroom instruction, and then my wife and I would do the driving with the kids, which was 10 hours. And we'd have about 30 kids that we would have to drive with during the summer, and the car was out, 10 hours, 7 days a week. And that was our summer job.
To tell you the truth, I don't know if I'd have to probably take a couple pills before I went out, because I've had to, my children preferred me to teach them to drive versus their mother, because I think she struggled with it more than I did. It's like, stop, turn. And I find teaching kids to drive really, really stressful. And my kids were wonderful. But to actually get in a car with kids, different kids every day, I don't know. I think I'd have to get a prescription.
Yeah, Dad always had a lot of patience, and he was good at instruction, whether it be basketball or driver's ed or business. He had a great way of communicating.
Tell me, when it came to basketball, because some people who are really into sports, as much as they want to be good sports, when a game didn't go just right, did your father bring it home with him? Like, did he sputter all the way home and then go to bed sputtering, or was it just another day?
I think my mom helped with that. He really wasn't allowed to do that. If we had a bad loss or whatever, I got in the car with him and we drove home, and he never really said much about it. I do know that, and this is part of his work ethic and why he was successful. When we got home, he was watching film of the game until probably 2 a.m. And then we'd have school the next day, and we would have practice, and he would, he was a fixer. We didn't do this well, so we need to do it this way. And that really helped. But he had great preparation the next day after a game, whether we won or we lost. And it was because he watched a lot of film, and that was before a lot of schools were watching film. He watched it. I just remember at night, days of games, he would watch it. And then on weekends, pretty much, half the day on Sunday, he was watching film and getting ready for the opponent the next week.
Now, we started off even before the camera started rolling with Todd, the producer of the show, and we were just sharing stories about your father. Now, that must be a real common occurrence when you're in Orleans County?
Yeah, for sure. He had so many kids, and either on his team or on his golf team, He had in driver's ed or in the classroom. And we go back now and work at basketball camp the week that he always had. It's a week after the 4th of July. And my family loves that week. I love that week. So we're there the entire time. We end up taking 8 or 9 days. And it's great to see people. They always ask how mom and dad are doing. Mom and dad usually come for 3 or 4 days or sometimes a full week. But no, it is. He loves coming back to Vermont, and we do too. And a lot of people ask how he's doing.
So your father knows about this event, does he? Or
he does, yes.
What does he think?
No, it's he's ecstatic, and he's very humbled by it. He gets emotional about it when you talk to him about it. But I mean, he's really, really excited for the 29th and really looking forward to that time. And it's mostly just to see, a lot of the people that he hasn't seen in years. The biggest.
Yeah, some of those people, when he probably kids, and now some of them, his students, are probably, it depends on what you define as senior citizens. Some of them are in their 60s now. What year did he get to North Country again?
I think he was 1970.
1970. Oh,
yeah, 1969, 1970, I believe, was his first year there.
Oh, absolutely. Then he has some seasoned senior citizens kicking around. So wow, he was there a long time. Again, so it's going to be on the 29th at North Country High School. Do you have any when it will be taking place during the game?
Yeah, it's going to be between the JV game and the varsity game. And I believe the JV game starts at 5, so it'll get done, probably around 6:15, 6:30. And then they'll do the presentation of the court at that time, and then they'll start the varsity game.
Right. How do you know how healthy the basketball team is these days? Is it still working out pretty well?
Yeah,
I'm going to tell. Go on.
Yeah, no, they've had some great years. Last year, they lost in the state championship, the boys. The girls were undefeated and won the state championship. The year before that, I believe the boys made it to the Final Four. And they're Division II now, so they play their games at Barry Auditorium.
Right.
But and I know the girls, I think it was 2 years ago, won the state championship. So no, the last 3 or 4 years, North Country has been excellent in basketball.
Right. One sport that I would never have guessed that North Country was going to be without was when you were there, hockey. If I understand right, they no longer have a hockey team.
I know. That's hard for me to believe. My sophomore, junior, and senior years, they lost in the state championship to John LeClaire and BFA. But it was always BFA, North Country were the two best teams in Division I. And it is hard to believe they don't have a team now.
But in our years, though, since we graduated, things have changed. The numbers graduate, and just because we don't produce as many young people here now, the number of people graduating each year, I believe, continues go down because there's far less than when we were in school.
Yeah, Chris Young, their principal now, is a childhood friend, and so I talked to him quite a bit, and I think there are around 750 students, right around there. When I went to school, we had 1,200.
Right.
So the enrollment has declined. He thinks it's going to stay around 700 or so. They probably won't dip too much below that, but yeah, there's not 1,200 kids there anymore.
I think that's a series of factors. Just a couple of them is we don't have the large families we used to have. Usually now it's more like one, two, maybe three. Whereas like some, they had huge families, and I think a lot of younger people are moving away, and some of them eventually return. But like my children who've moved scattered with the wind, the two that have children won't be returned. Well, none of them will be returning home. But
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people like them who've moved on.
Mhm.
So, okay, we only have a couple more minutes. And again, it is Friday, December 29th at North Country High School. And you said ballpark estimate.
Yeah, right around 6:15 to 6:30, right around there.
Yeah,
And after we're having a celebration for him at the East Side Restaurant
okay.
after the basketball game, and that'll be time where we'll have a microphone and a podium, and people can stand and talk. And I know he wants to address everybody at the game and at the East Side, and we can kind of share stories at that time, which that should be a fun event also.
Now that is okay. Well, I'm glad I was able to. I saw your sister posted something, really working to get the word out. So I reached out to her and decided to use my multiple forums to help get the word out for my old driver's ed teacher.
That's right.
I didn't have them a lot of people talk about having them for typing. I didn't. I had Mrs. Hunt. I don't know if she was still there, but
I did. Yeah, I had her too.
Yeah, and so no, he helped give me many years of safe driving. Other than that one deer that wanted to get in my way, and I don't blame that on myself, even though possibly your father would tell me I should have been, scanning the roadsides or something. But I still don't blame myself. But okay. Hey, it was great having you on. And now to get your father to come on afterwards. And
Sure.
you know what? I suspect not only could he come on for half an hour, I suspect between basketball and his teaching, including driving, I suspect he could write.
Oh yeah, he has a lot of stories for sure.
Okay. Hey, thank you for coming on.
All right.
Good luck.
Thank you for having me.
All right. See ya. And thank you to the viewers for tuning in to another segment of the Northeast Kingdom Voice.